And then we have some various tools. And then under Publish, this is the final step. You would go through and pick what you're going to publish to and publish it now. So let's do a few examples here. Let's go back to our Illustrate ribbon here. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the storyboard just so you get a good feeling of how everything's working here. And then we'll just immediately create a new illustration. We'll just hit New, and we'll give it a name. For example, Overview. Here's the main picture of our scene. And when I hit OK, you'll notice that the first thing it does is it creates a thumbnail here, because this is now a named view. And we go into this editing mode. So we're now in an orange box around us, which means as I rotate and pan and zoom my model, I'm getting updates on the thumbnail down here, which is going to be used to recall this later. So some of the ways that you can orient the model, there's this viewpoint panel. I can click this Extended Group Properties button here, brings up my viewpoint panel. And from here we have the standards, like your isometrics. But there's also a whole library of axonometric views here. So I have different dimetric views to select, different trimetrics. All of these are industry standards, and all of them have the very crisp, straight up and down lines built into them. And not only can you just take and look at it from a normal view, you can use any of these 8 viewpoints to orient the model precisely. The other thing you may want to do when setting up your illustration is to change the render style. So we may want to work with things like a lot of people use hidden lines removed. We'll actually do a second illustration with that one. Shaded with edges is really popular. You can also bring up an extended editor here too. And then from here we can change anything, like what color are the selected objects, what color is the background. You can apply a gradient background. A lot of people like to do boundary edges that are thicker than the crease edges, which gives you a 2-pixel, a 2-point line on the boundaries and a 1 point on the creases, for example. Lots of different things you can do here, adjusting lighting, trails. Let's turn on our trails. In the future, we're going to make an exploded view rapidly here. So, okay, so that's how you can set that up. And then the other thing that you would want to do probably with your scene is to add a markup layer to it. So each illustration can capture a set of markups, a 2D plane, or you can actually draw those into the 3D plane. Let's just go ahead and quickly add like a over plane arrow here or something, just to kind of demonstrate how the markups work. So you basically just pick a markup and drag that out to your scene. Place it here. We could go and change the color. I'll just leave it black for now. And when you're done, what you'll get is a scene that you've actually captured here. And this button right here, or the storyboard now shows it down here as your first illustration. Excuse me. For the second illustration, we're going to create an exploded view, and then we're going to add balloons to that. So it's a short little process here. We're going to hit Escape to deselect this one, and then we're going to go and create our exploded view. So under the Model ribbon, we have a set of exploded view tools. We can create a new exploded view. We'll just take the default name, and we're going to start by pulling components here. And let's just go ahead and get through this. Now the explode tools for Quadraspace, we're only going to do some translations here, but you can also do rotations, scales. You can do rotation scales. Scales can be used to like compress springs, for example. Let's see here. So let me go through here piece by piece. We're just going to make a quick exploded view of this. Now, one thing I'm doing here is I'm using the arrow tools or the handles to pull these apart. There's also different types of handles that you can use. And you can actually, if you prefer, type in the value for the movement. Most people find it easier to just go through and use the handle. Pull those out. And then 2 more steps here. Pull this one up. And then the board, I don't want to go through and select each thing individually, so I'm going to bring up the model panel. and I'm just going to select it using the tree. If you'll notice, though, the tree is the same tree that you have in your CAD tool, or your engineers would have in their CAD tool, which is really powerful. It gives all the organization that you need to keep these to keep the components organized into groups and assemblies. And now that I'm done with my Explodo view, I'll just hit done, and we will we have now an Explodo view that we can use. Now, before we go and add the callouts, we probably by default, this bill of materials comes in with all of these parts as a line item. What we really want is a bill of materials of our own. We're going to do a new parts list, and we're going to do this top level only because we want that circuit board to just be one item. So we'll do a top level only. We'll hit OK, and that generates a bill of materials that we can use. And this is going to define our balloon numbering scheme. So we have all these different numbers here, and this is going to match, and we can save this to Excel or whatever. Our bill of materials created in Quadraspace will match what we do with our callouts here. So let's go and let's create our second illustration, and we'll call this Exploded View, I guess. And you'll notice when I hit OK, we now have it created a second illustration here. And what we want to do at this point is to add our balloons. Let's get a little different orientation here. And then to add the balloons, there's a couple ways. We could auto-create from visible, and that will give me, based on that parts list, every item in that parts list row will create a balloon. And then we can just go and simply organize all of these by dragging them around. But what we're guaranteed at this point is that there's a balloon for every item in that parts list, and that's important a lot of times. You don't have to worry about whether or not the balloon, all the parts are ballooned. You're also guaranteed that the numbers match the parts list. So let's see. Let's go through and move some more of these around. And then you can adjust these by, like I'm doing here, just grabbing and dragging. You can select multiple ones at a time. It's actually, you can reposition the leader. So instead of that object, I'm just going to look at that one because that works better for me. Let's see what happened there. Position leader there. And let's see, about done here. The other thing we probably want to do on this scene was we're going to go with a HLR rendering instead of this HLR plus shaded. So let's go ahead and get these finalized out. Okay, so there we have a balloon scene. And the last thing I want to do is turn off the callout editing, and we're going to change our 3D view to just a simple hidden lines removed. And so now you see that we now have a balloon scene, hidden lines removed, a different render style. I'm going to hit done. And so we now have two illustrations. We have this one which we created, which has a arrow overlay, and this one, it's just a ballooning of our exploded view. Now you could go through and generate any number of illustrations, and they will populate the storyboard bucket down here, which is used for grouping them. And once you have generated your illustrations, the next step would be to publish those. So to publish, you can simply go to the Publish ribbon here. In this case, you would either pick raster or vector, because we're just making images. Let's just do raster. And then this goes into a preview mode here. You can tell it's set to publish all the storyboard, the current storyboard, every illustration in it will be published. We're choosing raster. We can type in the size. So let's say we want 800 by 600 raster images. And then here, this tab is telling us what we're going to create when we hit the Publish Now button. So it's going to give us a little XML file that'll define the order of these. And then it's going to create this illustration and this one. And the preview here shows us that, with this overview, when we probably want to adjust our sizing so that we get everything. Then we can preview again. And when we're satisfied with what